Winter is definitely coming early as we've got big chill and some snowfall chances moving eastward with winter storm warnings for parts of the plains. Some advisories expected to move eastward. Stick around because I've got a full breakdown on that winter storm as well as the impacts with it, and then the distant changes come into the forecast right here.
One Nation Weather.
Latest alerts from the National Weather Service this evening indicating winter storm warnings exiting parts of southeastern Wyoming, moving into the panhandle of Nebraska, and then we've also got winter storm warnings into parts of the mountains there in Colorado and New Mexico, and then in south central Kansas with winter weather advisories in between. Now, before dawn on our Saturday, a light band of snowfall may be making its way eastward through parts of Nebraska, but we're going to see this snowfall in the mountains into parts of Colorado as well as northeastern New Mexico. This snowfall going to continue progressing eastward, and there's really going to be a little bit of a boundary that sets up here, almost its own little front, and we're going to be able to see a little bit of ice on the mixing line here, but overall we're really looking at some pretty hefty snowfall. You can see some of those deeper blues through parts of central Kansas. This is where we'll be looking at some pretty heavy snowfall accumulation in a quick period of time. Some spots potentially picking up upwards of half a foot. You can see this training over those areas as we make our way through our Saturday afternoon. It will not be lasting long, though, and we'll continue to see this rainfall on the southern end and snowfall there make its way eastward. Now, only the Oklahoma Panhandle pretty much seeing snowfall, maybe a very brief changeover into Oklahoma City as we make our way into our Saturday night and into our Sunday. Notice as we go Saturday night into our Sunday, that's when we see some of that snowfall progress on over into Missouri, southeastern Iowa, as well as parts of Illinois. Any precipitation you get in Iowa from this system or Wisconsin, Minnesota, it will fall as snowfall. You can see Sunday early morning, some snowfall making its way towards places like Lake Michigan, even Lake Superior. Up in that region, we've got a little bit of a boundary moving its way through Canada to help support that as well. Also some low pressure riding the Gulf Coast. Now what I want to break down here, make this kind of easier to understand. We've got this weak system in the Great Lakes. You can see some snowfall into Michigan, but that's pretty much it. Snowfall only in that area. We've got rainfall going on here into parts of the Ohio Valley as well as back on down into Kentucky and Tennessee. We've also got some rainfall along the Gulf Coast, far southern Georgia as well as far southern Alabama. Then we've got this area moving up the eastern coastline, and this right here came off the southern jet stream. It's a little piece of energy that's been working its way through the southeast. Once it connects with what's going on there into parts of, the Great Lakes at this point, in early Monday morning, we're going to see a huge convergence here, and we could see a really big cyclone-ish storm here over parts of the northeast. Now, really just bringing some heavy rain and very gusty winds at times, but nonetheless, some of the higher elevations seeing some mixes into parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine. Very, very heavy snow if you see a quick shot of it here, because whatever precipitation is falling will fall quite quickly and quite heavily. So that's just something to note there. That's going to be where the heaviest impacts are going to come in a quick period of time. Also some lake effect snowfall coming off all the Great Lakes behind this system. Now snowfall through November 27th with the European model. Again, some of the totals there over far northern parts of Oklahoma, particularly just east of the Panhandle, as well as southern Kansas. We could pick up a solid 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. Of course, the Rockies picking up a bunch. Some snowfall totals of anywhere from 2 to 5 inches making its way into the Midwest and into the Great Lakes, and then of course lake-enhanced snow. By the way, my subscriber count is at 810 now. It was at 808 earlier. I'm trying to get to 1,000, so if you like accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasting, I've got it right here at One Nation Weather, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on your phone, it should have just popped up on your screen in the top right. Now, I wanted to do a quick breakdown with the lake effect snow, of course, the initial winter storm pushing northeastward, but it's to add energy behind it. We're going to continue to see snowfall come off parts of Lake Erie, parts of Lake Ontario as well, and some of these hefty snowfall totals that are going to fall into New York, as well as places like Erie, PA, kind of splitting the difference between Buffalo and those Watertown, New York areas there. Some of these snowfall totals could, get closer to 2 feet coming off the lakes, and this is definitely going to be the biggest lake effect snow event of the year. Again, notice if you're getting rainfall from the system, like places like Portland, Maine, you might pick up a solid 2 inches of rain there. Most areas along the southern corridor and areas that get rainfall in the Ohio Valley not picking up much, maybe a quarter to a half of an inch out of this system. Wind gusts is going to be the last thing I want to talk about, particularly with this system, then we'll get into the cold air behind it. Look at this, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts going into parts of the upper Midwest and the northern plains. Also, some slightly gusty winds in the south, but overall, you can see those winds pushing on over to the Ohio Valley Northeast. Zooming in on this a bit, you can see some of these gusts maybe 50, 60 miles per hour just offshore with that very strong cyclone there. 30, 40 mile per hour winds into parts of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast as we make our way towards our Monday and Tuesday time frame. We continue to see these gusts hit the Appalachians, but overall, we're going to eventually begin to see this system die down with those northwesterly winds as we head our way towards the end of the week. But that's not before it brings very cold air on in. So let's talk about the mid-level winds here with the GFS model. Notice the piece of energy really fueling this system over the plains that's going to make its way to the northeast, helping bring that snowfall to places like Kansas and northern Oklahoma. That's really going to be kind of riding the subtropical jet stream, the southern end here, so moving along the southern part of the United States. Notice it gets that attachment that moves through the Great Lakes. We get this overall zonal flow, which is just west to east flow in a steady fashion over the eastern part of the United States. That's really indicating here that we're going to begin to see some of these winds push on in from the north and the west at this point, bringing in some of that cooler air. This is the first indication of that. You can also see another trough digging on down, and that's what's going to help and keep that lake effect snow persisting really almost through the end of November. So let's talk about the temperature anomalies that are going to come with that. Temperatures dropping anywhere 10, 20, 30 degrees below where we should be behind this system, but overall it's going to be pretty tame, especially once you get east of the plains. Places like Kansas, Nebraska, maybe 20, 30 degrees initially. Everybody pretty much leveling out around 10 degrees below average towards our Monday afternoon if you're in the eastern half of the country. We continue to see that cool air make its way towards the mid-Atlantic, towards parts of the interior northeast as well. 10, 15, 20 degrees below where we should be. By the way, check out my last video. That's where I talked about exactly how cold some of these temperatures will get. But notice the anomalies start to only get confined to parts of the northeast. That's as we begin to see a little bit of a pattern shift here. The cool air really confined over to that region, and we start to see warmer air anywhere from 10, 15, 20 degrees above normal move into the mid-south, as well as on over, and a little bit in weaker fashion there, over in the north-central United States with some ridging, and that's exactly what you're seeing here on the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from your November 30th to your December 4th. We're looking at temperatures well above average, especially over parts of the Arklatex, moving on into Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle, as well as on over the north-central United States. The only places holding on to some cooler than average air is in the southwest as well as the far northeast. Now, really what's interesting here is with that warmer air in place, we begin to see precip go on the increase. This is why I'd be at least concerned about the chance for at least some isolated severe weather, again, as we head towards the end of November and start December. Pretty much the entire country above average in precipitation at this point, but especially along that southern jet stream, which of course is expected to be amplified with El Nino. Not a surprise there, getting really going here at this point as December approaches now. So let's briefly break down some longer range precip trends to watch with the GFS model. System moving towards the southwest California coast as we head towards, say, midweek this upcoming week. By the time we head towards December, that translates into a surface low over parts of the plains as well as the Midwest, as well as the Mid-South. Yeah, you get my point. Areas east of the Rockies beginning to see these systems take hold at the surface. Not much snow showing out of these systems right now, but again, anything can turn into a winter storm this time of the year, especially if we get enough colder air on the northern side. My point with showing you these graphics is not to make you think that this is going to happen, but what I'm trying to show you here is that we're at least looking at increased chances for more than average precipitation over areas pretty much for most of the country as we start December. By the way, as I mentioned earlier, I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers, or getting there anyway, and I'm accurate, easy to understand, and a passionate forecaster, so if you'll go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like, that really helps me out here at One Nation Weather. Here are the credits, everyone. Have a great day, and happy weekend.
One Nation Weather.